Stay tuned because next up is Village Properties Realtor and host of The Hop, that's Home Ownership Podcast, David Charles Allen. He's here to tell us all about real estate in Santa Barbara.
Welcome to The Hop. This is David Charles Allen, Realtor at Village Properties in Santa Barbara, California, with my great friend and co-host, Patty Teal. I'm doing wonderful today, Patty. How you doing?
I'm doing great too, David. How is the weather in Santa Barbara?
It's beautiful today. We had a little bit of overcast, but looking ahead, it's 60s, maybe even the 70s some days and sunny. So it's going to be really nice.
Sounds wonderful.
And then in terms of how the surf, we had a couple good days of surf these last couple of days. So it doesn't look like much is on the horizon, but there could be some of those South Swells that start building up a little bit south of us.
Those sneaky swells, right?
Those sneaky South Swells, you got it.
I'm learning.
And then in terms of the interest rates, not much, too much has changed since last week. 6% for 30-year jumbo and 6.375 for 30-year conforming.
Okay.
And in terms of the statistics, we got a big week, 50 new listings, which is great. 14 price changes, 29 that closed, 45 that went pending, 1 back in the market and 4 coming soon. So we had 50 new listings, which is amazing, but almost 45 that went pending. So market's still really good out there, but it's good to see we're getting a little more supply, a little more action in that realm.
That's wonderful. I remember you hoping it would get up in the 40s, which it did last week, but to be up to having 50 new listings, that hasn't happened in quite a long time.
Yeah, it's been quite some time. So leading ahead to summer, I'm assuming it's probably going to get up to that normal range where we're seeing 60 new listings a week, which is great. It's just where are all these people going? It's hard to say.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad because it's been a long time coming. I know usually it happens earlier in the spring and it's almost summer, but you'll take it, I'm sure. That's great.
Yeah, we'll take it. We're seeing the bidding wars are coming back, though, in some houses. So even though we're getting more supply, it seems like some of the desirable ones that are priced right are someone's coming in and paying a couple $100,000 more than the asking price. So I know we didn't have that over the winter and people were actually able to get what you could say below asking price or a deal. And it seems to be going back in the other direction now. So we'll see how crazy it starts getting again.
Really interesting. And because I don't think the entire country is facing that as they were before. I mean, it really got crazy, during the pandemic, but it was crazy for everybody. But in a way, Santa Barbara seems to be a little protected from some of the bad things that are happening in other cities regarding real estate.
Yeah, I definitely think we're more isolated in that sense that we're in this bubble of direction and in terms of limited supply and people continuously wanting to move here. So one thing we've talked about too is what could influence a lot of people moving is the ability to work from home. And I know that's been a big topic.
Oh, right.
On various CEOs saying the work from home model doesn't work. Everyone needs to get back into the office. So we'll see how that influences everything. But it seems like even if people were to move, because they weren't able to work at home anymore, a lot of people are just going to keep this as a rental home and buy again somewhere else. So who knows how much influence that will have on the actual supply.
Yeah, hard place to get your first home if you haven't gotten into one ever before. But the nice thing about it is it's just a great investment, always has been. I mean, maybe things fell in 2008, but for the most part, it's been a continual climb.
Yeah, it's always going to be a great investment. That's why you're seeing more and more people put their money here in terms of houses. And it's sad to see because a lot of people are turning it into more investment properties, or at least on the Mesa, because you can do short-term rentals. So you maybe lose a little bit more of the neighborhood vibe and you turn it into more of a kind of vacation business kind of vibe. But it's not happening in incremental rent rates so far, but it's happening.
How's the commercial real estate doing, David? Do you have a feel for that?
I mean, commercial real estate's always all over the place. Rents are always super high here, and there's always a large amount of turnover. And that's been happening ever since Santa Barbara's been around. It's just
Ever since Santa Barbara was Santa Barbara.
yeah, it's the
Yeah.
turnover rate is always extremely high. Once they started raising the rents pretty high. I mean, there used to be shops that were around that were on State Street for 30, 40 years. But then once the investment firms or whatever started getting hold of the actual real estate holdings, the prices just started skyrocketing. And a lot of those mom and pop shops went out and everyone thinks they have the best great idea that can pay $30,000 a rent. It's just tough doing that.
It sure is. Yeah, it is. I lived in Sedona for a few years, and I know the rent was high there, but I think they even have more tourists. I mean, it's just always packed. And while downtown Santa Barbara gets busy, and especially on the weekends, there are times when it's just not packed.
Yeah, I think it's the difference probably from Sedona is Santa Barbara, you could say, is a little more spread out. Like we have
Yes.
Montecito, we have
Mm-hmm.
the boardwalk, we have the harbor, we have the funk zone now. And so
Much
people
bigger.
don't generally flock right to State Street anymore. That's kind of like the last thing people do these days because it's just a different feeling on State Street than it is. You know, you'd rather walk the beach. There's a bunch of like restaurants down there and some shops.
Mm-hmm.
Funk zone, again, you got all the wineries. Again, you're close
Right.
to the beach. You got Montecito. And there's so many more activities that don't involve going down to State Street.
Right. Well, that's a good explanation for why it doesn't get that crowd of people at all times.
Yeah, it's a little more spread out. Sometimes when you have kind of the same shops everywhere and not like any unique kind of boutiques, it makes it a little more challenging for people to go explore and enjoy seeing new things.
Oh, it's a lot more fun when they're unique boutiques, that's for sure. Otherwise, you could be anywhere.
Exactly. And, you know, that's kind of what I think Santa Barbara always try to hold on to that. It's definitely hard to when you have rent increases so much.
Yeah, that is hard. Yeah.
Any questions of the day for me?
Well, David, I was wondering because I know it's getting time for summer vacation, and I'm thinking of the college kids. Maybe most of them live there year round, or maybe some of them go back to their parents' homes, wherever that is. I was wondering how that might be affecting both the renters and people who probably sell their home if the college kids' summertime affects anything in real estate.
Not in terms of Santa Barbara real estate, but maybe Isla Vista real estate. I'm pretty sure they sign year-long leases. Then they just move out in the beginning of the summer. So they're still paying rent some of the time, or they just move out. So people out there, they know what they're doing. They know when kids move out, they either have a backup plan where they sublease it to international students that come out during the summer. People that have been doing it for a while know the spiel.
Yeah. Well, I also wanted to mention, I read an article that Elon Musk, everybody knows Elon Musk is always putting his opinion out there, but he thinks that America is heading for a housing crisis. Whether that will hit Santa Barbara or not remains to be seen. As you said, we are very unique. Santa Barbara is such a unique area, but his points are ones that we've spoken about before, is that the existing owners can't afford to sell. They're kind of got locked in at the lower interest rates, and the existing renters can't afford to buy. So, and then of course he tied that in with the banking problems where banks have gone under. So I think a lot of it will depend on how the banks fare in the coming future, because he said getting harder and harder to get financing.
Yeah, I mean, Santa Barbara has been in a housing crisis for 20 or 30 years, it seems like, just because you can never build more houses and people always want to continue to move here. So
right.
We're constantly battling that. And like you mentioned before, even buying your first home here is really, really, really difficult, especially if you're paying the rents here as well. If you're paying the rents and not really able to build up that nest egg to get a home.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I feel a little bad about that. And I know that Goleta used to be a little more affordable than Santa Barbara and Montecito, but it's pretty pricey now too, just like everywhere else.
It is. You know, Ventura, Buellton, and Solvang has still maintained that level of being affordable, which is great. They're only kind of a half hour away from Santa Barbara. But yeah, Santa Barbara's just gotten wild, where double and triple the prices that they were 4 years ago. So
yeah. Well, it's unique, that's for sure. And David, how are your fur babies?
They are doing amazing. You maybe have heard earlier the cat and Bailey and Mango. Bailey always tries to act tough with Mango, so they're having their little battles. So
Oh, they are.
You may have heard that in the background.
No, I didn't hear it. So who wins those battles?
Bailey usually just barks at him, and then he jumps up on the windowsill and then just
Uh-huh.
sits there, and then Bailey goes back to bed, and then he comes back down and she tries to do it again. But then other times they
Oh.
just play with each other. It's usually only when
Oh,
food's
isn't
out.
that funny? And is Mango bigger than little Bailey? Bailey, by the way, is a dog, and Mango's cat
Mango
is.
is bigger than Bailey, but he just doesn't want to mess with her.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I don't blame. I don't
Yeah.
blame him. Yeah, I know cats can be kind of bossy with dogs. I had that experience once myself. The cat that I was watching with my daughter's cat, she was gone for an extended period, and he blocked the path so they couldn't walk certain places. And definitely the dogs were puppies and the cat was full grown. So the cat ruled the roost. And then I'll never forget it. I just wish I had a video. The cat's tail would go from side to side and the dogs would be in a line like little ducks behind the cat, just moving their head from right to left, following the tail. It was hilarious.
Oh, that's so cute.
It was cute. Yeah. Well, David, thank you so much. If people are listening and they want to get a hold of you to either buy or sell a house or just get your advice on real estate, how would they reach you?
Yeah, my number is 805-617-9311, and my email is david@davidcharlesallen.com.
Thank you so much, David, for all the great information and advice. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Patty. Let's do it again next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.